cost of the damage? $135 million. Isn't that frightening? That's just painful. Let's talk about this for a second. These are smart people. If you're working anywhere near a satellite, you're pretty smart. What happened? Let's go through. What do you think might have happened? What mindset were they? First of all, what mindset were people operating from that needed those bolts? Now explain that to me. Why do you say that?
Because
they didn't communicate.
Or Sean, you go.
Okay. You're right, Sean. Brett.
I was going to say, I mean, they were just focused on their own task alone. They had a job to do, and it didn't matter about anyone else's.
Okay, excellent.
Well, an outward mindset person would have been like, hey, I took your bolts, just so you know.
Or maybe even before they took them.
Yeah, or asked,
is it okay if I take
it? You know these bolts that are holding up this money? All right, pretty simple, straightforward. But you see how when you become so hyper-focused on your own objectives and your own tasks, you become, well, actually there's a great word for it. It's a very technical term. When mindset is inward, there are a whole bunch of things that we don't see. Our decisions are based on less than complete information. We become increasingly operationally stupid. Technical term. Completely blind to what's happening around us. We're all blind to what's happening around us. Whatever we know right now, we know because it's within our scope of understanding and our awareness. It doesn't mean that it's complete, that it's full. But we have a great situation here. Great. To illustrate the fact that when we operate purely from an inward mindset, even though we achieve, now did the team that take the bolts, did they achieve their team's objectives?
Hopefully.
They probably did, right? I mean, the bolts, apparently they still have them, so they got their job done.
Well, you guys have a $260 million thing. We're going to take your $260 bolts.
It is painful, isn't it? All right. It's a little bit over the top as far as a demonstration. But how damaging it is. Now, again, this is almost, in some respects, it feels like a caricature. But you begin to think of the things, even on a smaller organizational and operational basis, of how often do we do the equivalent of taking the bolts? How often do we do the equivalent of focusing so intently on our objective that we've achieved our job description? Checkbox, checkbox, checkbox. Yet we're completely unaware of what's going on around us. Now, they all work for the same organization. Were the organization's objectives, were they increased, were they achieved, or were they set back?
$135 million.
If they're dealing with dollars, that's quite a setback, isn't it? All right. Oh, that's just painful. You know, there's never a time where that picture comes up and I don't just feel it. Gosh, that's just nasty. All right.
Somebody's getting fired.
Yeah. I always wondered what's the after-action report on that? Who's still around, and what might that? Can you imagine that first meeting that they had collectively? You try and
the guy that hit that button.
Every time you move the satellite, check
can you imagine how they felt as they started? Imagine standing there.
You're the guy that somebody had to hit the button,
and you're starting to see this, and at a certain point was there, no, stop. It's too late. All right. Situational awareness, guys. Situational awareness. How often are we actually taking the bolts? How often? In the smallest of things. At home, with friends, at work. How often are we taking the bolts? We're so focused on achieving our goals that we're completely unaware as to the impact that our actions are having on those around us that are also part of achieving team goals and collective organization goals, okay? So the bolts. Don't forget the bolts. All right, let's go on and talk a little bit about time. When we start talking about an outward mindset, it begins to feel like here we are with a thick handbook and we're talking about these principles and it starts feeling like more work. One of the greatest things about an outward mindset is how efficient things can become. And rather than losing time, we're gaining time. And so we're going to have a little bit of a video here. And Ms. Carla DeBosch, former VP of Marketing with US West, this large telecom organization, and she's going to talk about the impact of this mindset shift and what an outward mindset did as far as how efficiently they were able to operate once that was kind of implemented, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and listen to Carla for a second.
We stopped thinking so much about what's in it for me and what can I get out of this, as opposed to what can I do that will make sure that Mitch's organization meets their goal, and in kind I'll meet my goal. We just flip the switch a little bit so we don't have to go to the negotiation table and fight all day long. Once you have a level of understanding of the person on the other side of the table, you know them as a human being, you start believing that what's coming out of their mouths is the truth. Once that happens, now you don't have 5 or 6 or 3 months of crap trying to get to the window. In marketing, you have a very narrow time frame to make something happen or you lose because somebody else is going to have the idea and take it from your butt. The window closes quickly and we lose opportunity because we're fighting. We're in committee fighting. So we were being able to jump through windows while they were wide open because we could fix something fast. You could go to a network meeting, a strategy meeting about plant cable, and we got this great promo, but we don't have enough cable, it's not enough money, and you go, okay, I got $20,000 over here, can we move this budget? Well, Carla, are you willing to give up your 20? I'll give up the 20. Why? For the good of all, that's why we're gonna do this. When everybody comes to the table, and we get there first to the marketplace, and we deliver, and we win.
All right, she's got some energy, huh? Yeah, it's like, give me a dose of that. All right, just tell me what you saw, what happened? What was Carla talking about?
In the end, collaboration to get a mission accomplished.
Okay, now before things could start moving fast, did you pick up on some words, some things that they said had been established?
Trust.
Trust, number one, it's huge, right?
Yeah.
Truth. Truth. So, and I'll take that a step further too, Rich. It's truth is to the other people around the table. No, she says, as soon as I know what you're trying to achieve, I know what your goals are.
Mutual understanding.
Yeah. When I really understand what you're dealing with, what your objectives are, then suddenly it changes everything, right?
Yeah, desire for everyone being able to add meaning and thoughts to solving the solution.
Yeah.
Solving the problem.
Well, it's amazing how, for one person, this could be the end of the world problem, but somebody else, all they have to do is like, I can solve that in 2 seconds. So,
Right. And this goes back kind of to the trust point. And establishing trust without a relationship is next to impossible. And having a relationship without a knowledge of the constraints and difficulties, challenges, and opportunities that others are dealing with is also impossible. So it presupposes that you're seeing each other as people and you're understanding their objectives, their outside triangles, so to speak, okay? When you really understand everybody in the room's outside triangles and you've made that effort, you've made that investment, how fast things can go. You're not second guessing, you're not posturing, you're not hiding, you're not going defensive. You can get stuff done. You can lay it out, and you can make things happen. You can make them happen fast, cheap and snappy. It's so funny too, because here we are. It's she's throwing out these words left and right. There's part of me that's like, wait, church, this language, this is terrible. And we go back to Al-Mulali. It reminds me of when I was at and I'm sure none of you have ever said any of the words that are up here, obviously. It reminds me of this is an experience about a month ago.
yeah, not today.
Where I was sitting down and I wanted one of my kids, who's now a teenager, I wanted to show him some of the awesome teen movies of when I was a teenager in the 80s. Horrible. We didn't make it 10 minutes into the movie. I'm like, oh my gosh. Suddenly you're overly sensitive to all this stuff that you never saw before. Goonies.
Yeah.
That was another one. Where did this come from? This was
Kids' earmuffs.
Yeah, exactly. It was just one of those funny, so you change the setting. And so suddenly, I've never paid attention to Alan Mullally's colorful language before, but suddenly I found myself sitting in a place of worship, and that just rang out like somebody hit me with a 2x4 inside the head. Anyway, all right. Point made. Let's move on. All right, so let's, understood. I want to go into the last one. I'm going to bring Chip back into the conversation, all right? So we saw Chip before. Let's take a look and see where Chip is now. So we've talked about situational awareness. So an outward mindset has massive implications on our situational awareness. When I'm aware of your outside triangles, your objectives, your needs, I can conduct my work in such a way that makes life easier for you. There's 2 ways I can go about my work, and both of them might take the same amount of time and effort. But if I'm aware of what's going on with you and what you're dealing with, then I'm likely to achieve my goals in a way that I don't become a detriment or a problem for you. Pretty simple, right? Time and efficiency here. Carla's talking about once you really establish those relationships and you really see each other with this outward mindset, you're out of the box toward each other, as it were. Okay? The efficiency increases. Suddenly that trust element, that foundational layer is so important. But beyond even a trust, because a trust, you've got some people that are very trusting and some that aren't. And so simply leaving it up to our trust level and what we're comfortable sometimes won't get you there as a group. And so the effort needs to be made to really understand each other's outside triangles and really seeing everybody as an outward, with an outward mindset, okay? And then you can move forward at a much quicker pace. So now we're going to see influence. If we really want to have influence with people that we work with and get things done in a positive direction, how does outward mindset play out? So let's watch Chip again.
He is a guy who I would never even think of
talking to about a problem?
Chip came in as a guest speaker to talk about the work he does in SWAT. When he first walked in, I thought to myself, this training is going to be bad, until Chip was done with his segment and this other officer from another department really saw him and how much he had changed.
Since he's been exposed to the material, he's completely changed. Like you talked about with this squad, not only has he changed, but he's tried to influence the people around him, and he's a completely different person.
That made me think, okay, this training is worth something, and now I'm really in.
It took a while to get everybody on board. It really did. And I know I didn't change overnight. It's something that you don't change overnight.
We always ask people in class, okay, so why are you here? And we had his officers who worked with him directly in his sector said, I don't know what you did to him, what kind of Kool-Aid he drank or whatever, but I want some of that.
A constant pushing Chip of, guys, let's try this.
But you see it work, and you start trying it, and then you use it more, and you get the guys around you to use it more, and then you realize that it's much easier to be that way.
We got away from with these massive tough guys coming in and raiding houses and becoming like an overwhelming force, and we kind of started to treat people as, I think Chip told me once, treat them like your grandma or grandpa.
You get deep within the philosophy of what it means to you, but all it really does is exposes you to an opportunity to be responsive to these heroic people that are around you, to let them teach you. Because that's the amazing irony in it all, is that they're teaching you. They've got this knowledge inside of them. They may not even be aware of it.
Some of the things I've learned from Chip, talking about not necessarily condoning illegal behavior, but understanding, where it comes from.
As their character improves and strengthens, it attracts other people of high character. They want to be part of that.
Watching him kind of evolve into what he is now has been very enjoyable. And because Chip has a lot to give.
What he's teaching from the Institute is working, and it's everybody follows it.
He's passed off a lot of responsibility to the members of his team and to all of us that work here. And in my family life, I have a great relationship with my sons. I can't even explain it, how great it's been. My relationship with my brothers, to be able to hang out with my brothers like I do, and to really value them.
He instills this sense of team within this unit. It comes from leadership, there's no doubt about it, because Chip takes care of us.
It's funny because I have seen a complete 180 change. It's about helping the people that is around, and seeing the transformation in him, it's amazing.
All right, what happened? What changed?
His mindset.
Yes.
You knocked the chip off. Chip
We're
Hill.
smart too.
That's good. That's good.
As soon as he did that.
That's good. Nobody's done that before. No, actually, I've never
That was
actually.
lame. That's good.
So what changed? Was Chip doing his job before? He was. He was running the show. He did everything on his job description. Right? So what changed? What did you notice different between this Chip and the other Chip?
People became people instead of obstacles or vehicles or
What happened to his ability to influence others?
tremendous change.
Did that increase? It's interesting because, again, you can imagine being on the other side of Chip in both situations, and you know which one would affect you and which one you'd be more likely to follow. But sometimes we chalk these things up again. All right, that's nice, cuddly, soft stuff. But Chip, over the last 3.5 years, since Chip came through the Institute, Chip actually from time to time, Arbinger will actually have him at events, and he's part of the public safety part, so they have a lot of SWAT teams and other police departments that are utilizing the Arbinger content as well, and Chip plays a big role in that. But the 3.5 years following that, they actually had higher seizures of drugs, guns, and money than in the preceding 10 years. In other words, efficiency went up. Lawsuits, which used to be frequent and often, came to zero over that same period of time since the change. So not only are they achieving more, but they're doing it more effectively, they're doing it more efficiently with less liability by simply changing the way that he saw those that were around him and becoming alive to them and no longer seeing them as objects, right? Pretty interesting stuff. And it's fun to see how it works in an environment such as the SWAT team, where it's all about flashbangs and pounding doors down. And we're going to see Chip again a little bit later on. Okay? Let's move on. We're going to go to framework 2 now, 29. So now that we've kind of had this conversation, right, we've kind of set the stage a little bit. All right, you get it. You know what an inward mindset is. You know what an outward mindset is. You know that everything is wonderful when we have an outward mindset. Rainbows, color bubbles, clouds part, birds sing. When we're in an inward mindset, stuff doesn't work as well. Even though we think we're doing a great job, we're knocking out our job description and doing everything on paper, and yet things could be so much better. And so you kind of see the difference. You recognize that behavior and mindset are two different things. And any behavior can be done with an inward or an outward mindset. It's not the behavior that makes the impact, it's the mindset behind the behavior. Okay? So we've kind of substantiated that. We've shown you a little bit that there are major situational awareness impacts. That time and efficiency, things can become far more efficient, effective, and move quicker when there is an outward mindset approach, and a much greater degree of influence as well. All of these things are increased dramatically, exponentially, when an outward mindset, when you're out of the box, so to speak. Okay? So then the question would arise, why would we ever want to be in the box? And then further follow-up would be, how on earth would you ever get in the box to begin with? Because now you become sensitive to the fact that I don't want to be in that box. I want to become sensitive. How might I fall into that box? And that's what we're going to go to next, okay? Of how we actually find ourselves going into the box. All right, we're going to use this just a moment. So let's go ahead and we're going to take an example here. Play this one out. All right? Now, again, keep in mind up here, I have an outward mindset. My triangle is outward. I see Jack. Now, suppose for a second that I notice that my coworker, Jack, would benefit from some information that I have. He's going into a meeting. He's going to make a presentation, and I realize that he doesn't have some information that would help him. Okay? So this is the notion that I would have. If I had an outward mindset, I would naturally think of Jack as a person saying, he matters to me. I know that if I were in that situation, I'd want that information given to me, right? And so naturally, I go ahead and I would get that to him, right? So, if I'm operating from an outward mindset, I naturally have a desire to be helpful. Okay? Basic stuff. All right. I want to be helpful. I see him as a person. His objectives matter to me. They're important, and I want him to have that information. All right. Now, let's go ahead and make an assumption. What happens if I don't share that information? Okay. Now, this is very important. We're gonna pause a second, just kind of slow things down for a moment. We're gonna kind of just go through this with us. What would happen in that moment where I have a sense of treating Jack like a person and giving him that information, knowing that that would be the right thing to do, knowing that would be the right way to honor him as another person? But let's assume that I don't do that. What might happen?
You might fail.
Okay, he could fail.
The organization could suffer.
Okay, the organization could suffer. Absolutely, both right.
You could figure it out on his own.
Possibly, hopefully, lucky the stars align. He figures something out on his own.
I can
Absolutely.
come in later and share it and be the star.
Ah, yes.
Now we know.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Good point. All right, so I'm going to choose to withhold this information from Jack. Now, this is the first time we're going to introduce this word of justified. The second that I act against a sense to treat somebody like another individual, and I don't honor that, there begins to emerge in me a need to be justified. Why do you think that is?
Because we know not helping them is wrong.
Yeah. Do we want to think of ourselves as wrong or as bad people? So what will begin to happen with this need to be justified? How might we start seeing it?
Skewed.
Skewed, yeah. Reality begins to change a little bit. Let's go through this. We'll walk through how this actually happens, okay? Let's actually take an example of our own here. All right, you and I. Okay? Now, Heath is going into a meeting. Same exact one. I could choose to honor that sense that I have of giving him that information, right? If I do that, everything is wonderful. I continue to see Heath as a person that matters the same as I matter, okay? But what if I betray that sense? Again, what we're describing is one of the ways that we can find ourselves going into this inward mindset and going into this box toward another individual, okay? All right. So in this instance, rather than honoring it, I'm betraying that sense. All right, so we're going to take a look and see what actually happens once I begin to betray that.